The meetings and events industry is in upheaval. Live conferences and shows struggled over the past year as COVID-19 restricted travel and in-person attendance. The in-person event industry was brought to its knees by the pandemic, and live events, face-to-face networking, and the buzz of an exhibition have been put on hold. The entire live events industry has essentially been shut down since March of 2020. The hardest hit industries were travel and entertainment. You can see here that $850 billion to $1 trillion is what the meeting and events industry contributed to the GDP prior to the pandemic. Now, 39% of the jobs lost during the pandemic have been in the meetings and events industry. That's triple the number of the next hardest hit industry. You're talking about thousands of companies and millions of jobs in the trade show world. Like 10 million jobs have been lost because they've been totally shut down. Now, with concerns over the Delta variants, events are once again canceling their live shows. 72% of live events have failed to profitably pivot to a virtual format during this time. But there is some good news. You see, virtual events were already growing in popularity pre-pandemic. It was already a $78 billion industry in 2019. And now, during the pandemic, virtual events have grown over 1,000%. And this is not some temporary phenomenon. As vaccines roll out in force and restrictions begin to loosen, the prospect of in-person trade shows seems viable again. But still, the path may not be clear. Even as the pandemic fades, concerns over event safety will likely linger for some time. Similarly, some would-be attendees may now prefer virtual trade show experiences after becoming accustomed to them. It will probably take a long time, even a few years, for trade shows to reach their pre-pandemic levels. Some of the advantages of virtual trade shows include that they're flexible. What's great about virtual events is that they can be tailored to your business needs. They're cost effective. Venue hire can run into the tens of thousands of dollars just for one day. And that doesn't even take into the account the cost of food and drink, accommodations for speakers, and venue insurance. With virtual events, those costs are non-existent. They're scalable. Most physical venues have a limit to the number of people allowed in, and then you have to take into the account the cost of hosting thousands of people. Virtual events make it much easier to scale, meaning you can host more people for a fraction of the cost. They're engaging. 30% of people are more likely to speak to a person in a virtual booth. Maybe that's because people are scared to approach someone at an event, or they just enjoy the anonymity. They're environmentally friendly. The cost of hosting an in-person event aren't just monetary. They can be environmental. With a virtual event, there's less travel and no printing. They're reliable. There's no need to cancel an event because of weather or even a global pandemic. They provide comprehensive analytics and reporting of data. This is where virtual events really shine, with reporting of who attended what booths and what actions they took when they were at those booths. The length of time is totally open. Virtual events can remain up for weeks or even months after the live event date. And there's an expanded attendee base because travel's not involved. It's easy to reach a national or even global audience of attendees. So let's take a look and see what the WebStore's platform for virtual events is in action. I'm going to show you two different websites and go back and forth between these two to show you some of the advantage is that WebStore's Limited offers with a virtual event. The first of these is going to be Small Ship Cruising Expo. And the second is going to be the Virtual Small Wedding Expo. We'll go ahead and start here with the Virtual Small Wedding Expo. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the floor plan. Now, the floor plan can actually look like anything we want it to. Since this is a virtual event, the floor plan does not have to exist in real life. Of course, if we're doing a hybrid event and we actually do have a real floor plan, we can utilize that as well. So you can see here that with the Small Wedding Expo, our floor plan looks like a wedding chapel with some outside areas and some villas where someone might stay for a honeymoon. The villas in this case are going to be the sponsor booths, and the booths inside of the chapel are going to be for the individual exhibitors. We'll just go ahead and click on one of them here, in this case, Clock Tower Events, and we can see that information comes up for the Clock Tower Events. Now let's jump over to the Small Ship Cruising Expo and take a look at the exhibit hall there. In this case, we call it a deck plan because, like I said, it can look like anything we want it to. It does not have to be a physical property. So in this case here, we have chosen to make our exhibit hall look like a deck of a small ship. And again, we can click on different areas, see different booths, and depending upon the booth that we click on, the information comes up for it. Now, whenever we click on one of these booths, some information is given to us right here, including a video, including going to the directory listing and taking a look at the virtual booth. Let's go ahead and jump over to the virtual booth. Now, the virtual booth, again, it can look like anything. What we have done is we have chosen to show all of the booths in the Small Ship Cruising Expo to look identical, but are branded for the specific vendor. In this case, AMA Waterways. So we can come in here, we can get a passport stamp. And this is actually going to be relatively important because when we click on that, we're basically earning points saying that we have gone and visited AMA Waterways. Now, we actually know that we've already done that because we are logged in and we know who is visiting that booth. We can request information. This is a specific form just for, in this case, AMA Waterways. And we can ask a specific question for that. We can take a look at the brochures. These are basically any brochures that we want to that are downloadable as PDF files. We can take a look at a video and watch a video right inside of the virtual booth.
Europe, at its most enchanting, glides gently past your French balcony. You've settled.
And perhaps the most significant thing when you come to the virtual booth is the ability to have a live chat. Someone can come in here and actually visit with you via a Zoom call, essentially the same as if they had come up to your booth in a physical in-person event. And if the person staffing the booth is busy talking to someone else, then you can schedule an appointment and come back at a later time. So let's go back to the deck plan. And then let's take a look here at the directory listing. Now, the directory listing can be achieved by going through the exhibit directory file up here off of the menu as well. The interesting thing here is we can put whatever information we want to in here. Now someone can go to the deck plan or the virtual booth from the directory listing, but we can come in here and we can say, you know what, we're really looking for a adventure cruise. And so we can just search all of our suppliers or the people exhibiting at the show for who is an adventure cruise line. And depending upon what we see there, we can go in and look at their directory listings. Now let's jump back to the virtual small wedding expo, and we can see that we have the same type of situation here. We can go to the virtual booth or the directory listing, but we also have another option listed here, which is packages. And the packages can be anything that we want to actually sell while we are producing the event. So someone can come in here and look at just the clock tower events packages. Here is an elopement ceremony only package for $1,000. And we can purchase that right here on the site. An elopement ceremony all-inclusive for $2,000 and so forth. This is branded for the specific vendor. So if we come over here and we look at the packages for everyone, we can see that there is Where to Elope. And Where to Elope has their products and services listed as their own store within the virtual event as well. So someone can come in here and purchase the book or the t-shirts and so forth. So lots of different choices here. Now, the other thing that we have with both of these sites is a conference. And the conference is a set time for a live event where the exhibitors are going to go in and present on different topics. So in the case of the Small Wedding Expo, there is a presentation on wedding budgets, one on wedding types, one on different packages, one on bridal fashion show, wedding venues, picking the date, caterer, officiant, photographer, disc jockey, florist, guest lists, save the date, wedding planning and invitations, and on and on. These are all presentations that the exhibitors get to do, and they are recorded so that this event, as it remains up for the next 30, 60, 90 days, someone can come in here and watch these presentations at any point in time. As we jump back over here to the Small Ship Cruising Expo, the other thing I wanted to show you here is the reward points. Now, the reward points are actually really important as they relate to these conferences, because every time you do something, the system knows exactly which action you took. You're logged in, so we know your name, your phone number, your email, and so forth. And you can come down here and you can actually check this yourself and see how many points you've gotten for doing different things. So I received 5 points for visiting the AMA Waterways directory listing, 10 points for visiting Seven Seas, 5 points for doing each of these different things, visiting different people, watching their videos, doing a live chat with them, and so forth. We can even see who the leaders are in a particular category. And whoever has the most points at the time of a presentation, they're the ones that are eligible for the door prizes. So we give away a door prize during our conference, and these people get rewarded with the door prize because they've earned the most points. But more significantly is that the suppliers can now come in And they can get a list at the end of the show of who attended their event, what actions they took, and so what they need to know in order to follow up. So that is just a brief outline of what we can do with virtual trade shows and conferences utilizing the Web Stores Limited program.